with the Queer Muslim Project, the initiative that I ran, I think all the points that you all shared was at the heart of it. The reason behind why we started the Queer Muslim Project, because we felt that if we don't tell our stories, somebody else will, and somebody else has already said it, and have said it in ways that are violent, that are not affirming of our experiences, of diverse experiences that we all live with. And I just want to share a little personal story here. When I was a child and I used to go to boarding school, I remember my father used to recite this verse from the Quran. It's called Ayatul Kursi. It's a very important verse from the Quran. It talks about the all encompassing power of Allah, God. And as a child, I wasn't religious. I did not. I went to a boarding school. I had that kind of privilege. But each time I would leave home for boarding school, and of course later when I had to move to college in Delhi, my father would come to the gate and he would recite Ayatul Kursi and he would bless me. And for me as a queer person, as somebody who was gay but hadn't accepted myself, who uh, who had this kind of soft attachment to faith or to the cultural narratives or to the idea of family, but also struggled in so many ways because I felt that I would not be accepted for who I am. Many years later, when I was in Delhi, I looked back and I thought, why would my father do this? This is like I don't identify so much with this with Islam or with this faith, but still that act of my father reciting Ayatul Kursi when I would leave home, it gave me that sense of connection. It made me feel wanted and loved, and to know that there's somebody, at least my father, who cares for me, and maybe he would accept me beyond anything that the society or the world says, right? This was, of course, one part of my struggle with faith, both being belonging and not belonging in a community that was at one level very close, but also at another point very distant from who I was. Many years later, when I was in Delhi, I experienced Islamophobia. I experienced what it meant to be different, also as a religious person, and especially when you are a religious minority. I realized in 2016 when I applied for a passport, and the police officer came to my door to verify my address. My landlord, who had earlier agreed to be my local witness, said no. He just blatantly said no. He said, I can't certify for this person. I can't sign these documents. It broke my heart. It shattered me. It made me realize. It made me feel like I was not wanted. And I thought that I'd been living in this house for more than 3 years. I'd been a good tenant. I'd been paying my rents. But at this crucial juncture in my life, when I wanted a passport, something that was a marker of privilege, something that would give me the space to move out, to travel, to go to another country, I was being denied that opportunity. Of course, I had to in India what we call jugaad. It's in Delhi especially. Jugaad is this thing when even in the worst of circumstances you can find a solution. So I had to do some bit of jugaad and get my passport somehow made. And when I went to the police station the next day, a funny incident happened. My friend who had accompanied me with the documents was asked in my absence by the police officer if I was like that. Like he said, is he like that? You know what like that means, if I were gay. And when my friend said yes, he absolutely told my friend that, oh, some people are like that and, God made them like that. And he had all kinds of ideas and justification. And when I met the police officer again, his behavior towards me had shifted. The previous day when he met me, he looked at me as an angry man, as this angry Muslim man. But the next day when he discovered my identity, his demeanor, his behavior towards me changed, shifted. And on my way back home, I realized one thing, that at one level, my Muslim identity was explosive. It almost felt like it carried so much of a threat. But at another level, my gay identity and the social and cultural perceptions of what it means to be gay diffused that tension. The policeman thought this was a weak man who needed support and not somebody who could be a potential threat, right? And this is being a struggle that as a gay Muslim person one comes across. And what was at the heart of this was lack of representation, lack of visibility. For a long time I was involved in the queer movement in India, and I did not see faces like me. I did not see Muslim representation. And in Muslim communities, I was always told that the day will come. By my very liberal friends, they would say, wait, the day will come. But unfortunately, for some of us, that day doesn't come. And what we need to do is we actually have to create that day for us. We have to celebrate our narratives. We have to celebrate who we are. And it's not an easy journey. And I recall a question that was sent to us as part of this uh, application for this workshop, a very powerful question somebody said about trauma. And if we really have to to convince other people, if we really have to make ourselves vulnerable. And my question was, you know share. My point was that share only what you feel like sharing. Know your audience. You are at the center of this story. You create your story, you tell your story. And with the Queer Muslim Project, I think that has been, what we've been doing. If you look at our Instagram feed, the stories are always in first person. We value the narratives of people from first person. They are the ones who tell their story, not somebody else framing it in third person. And I think with storytelling, we have a great opportunity. Of course, this is me sharing it. And I think there are different ways and different approaches to storytelling, especially if you want to use storytelling in our work. And the kind of work we do is not easy. We deal with so much personally, but also when we hear our community and the narratives. But how do we navigate that space, right? And one approach that really has worked for me. I won't be showing a slide, but I'm happy to share resources after the workshop, just in the interest of time. It's called Authentic Voice Framework. So what Authentic Voice Framework, it is a framework by a professor in Harvard University called Marshall Ganj. And the Authentic Voice Framework actually looks at how do we develop our story, especially in the spaces of community building and movement building, right? And there are three essential components to authentic voice. Is that to building an authentic voice narrative is the story of self, where who you are, why, what kind of a choice did you make? And in all of our story sharing in the last session, where you all shared story, all of you had to make certain choices in life, right? And there are other people who connected with that choice. So the story of self actually is about that choice that you made as an individual and the outcome where it brought you to. There is the second component called the story of us, which is where the choice that we make as a community. So today we are not just individuals but also a community in this room. So collectively, what challenge we faced and what kind of a choice did we make and what outcome it led us to. And finally, is the part is about story of us. Sorry, the story of now, which is the call to action part. And one of the things, and this we will of course both our speakers today, Alok and he will help us understand through their own stories uh, why this moment is crucial today. I mean, the call to action part is also important because I think too often we struggle a lot with the problems, with the laws, with oppression, and so many different kinds. But for our community, I think the challenge is also when we learn to balance hope and despair, right? And with the Queer Muslim Project, I think that's one thing. It's not easy. It's not easy balancing hope and despair because sometimes the amount of despair is so much that on some days you want to retire, you want to resign, you say, I don't want to do this work. But the next day you wake up and you say, hey, you know what? This is me and I'm going to tell my story. And this is how I want to be framed and not anybody else framing me. Yeah. So thank you everyone.